so.
Speaking of Hollywood, who was the star that you guys got to? What was his name?
Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper.
That was fun. He was the nicest guy you ever want to meet.
Now, how did that happen? He was doing a USO show?
He had come over. We had been down to Melbourne. 4 of us had been down to Melbourne. We picked up 4 new airplanes, and we were ferrying them back up to New Guinea. And we had stopped off overnight in Sydney. And in a hotel that we were staying in, we ran into Gary Cooper, and he wanted to talk to, he was interested in talking to 4 fighter pilots, and he had 2 starlets with him, and we were interested in talking to them. And he told us, he said, now we asked him where he was going. He said, we're on the way to Port Moresby, and we got a C-47. So we said, well, we'll escort you. We were going the same way. And so we flew escort for him. We landed 2 or 3 times on the way to Port Moresby. But the thing was that there wasn't a gun in any one of those 47s.
Well, there usually was more. What? That's when you'd go down, you'd bring the whiskey and everything back. So you got rid of everything, even your parachutes, right? Because you filled the bags up.
Oh, we didn't do away with the parachutes. The only time I flew without a parachute was the one time I went back. I flew from Sadar to Boona, which is on the north coast of Australia, and I flew back there to pick up some stuff. And once again, I didn't have any guns. I just was going to come back with fresh eggs, meat, and, you know, stuff we couldn't get up there. And my roommate was there. That was the 11th Airborne had just come overseas, and they were stationed at Boona. And that's another story I'll tell down there for another Saturday night. But so I knew my roommate would really, you know, he had gone into paratroopers, but he really liked to fly, so I asked him if he'd like to go for a flight, and yeah. And this is late in the afternoon, so I dropped my parachute and I sat in his lap and took off and did all kinds of acrobatics upstairs and came through and sort of dusted off the top of their officers' club tent that they had, and I landed, and it's almost sunset time, and I look over and here's a 2-star general and a colonel coming toward me, and that colonel had been a 1st lieutenant my plebe year at West Point, and my math instructor, and he hadn't cared very much for me, and I hadn't, his name was Schimmelfinney, and I hadn't cared much for him. And I figured, oh God, I'm in trouble. And the 2 of them walk up, and before the colonel could open his mouth, the general says, Lieutenant, were you flying that airplane? Yes, sir. Would you fly, did you take him up? Yes, sir. Would you take me up? I said, well, sir, it's too late now. I can't do it. And the next morning I got up in dawn and I was gone. And that probably was a mistake. I probably would have been wise to have stayed there.
Got to know the general in a very intimate way, sitting on his lap.
Well, one of the guys in the class ahead of me at West Point made quite a name for himself doing exactly that with Eisenhower in England.
Which one was that?
Ernie White.
time is it getting to be?
11 o'clock.